Charlie Watts, I am the drummer.
I'm Brian Jones, a guitarist and harmonica player.
Keith Richards, guitar. Mick Jagger, I sing. Songs.
Bill Wyman, I play bass.
We've been making top 20 records in England for 2 years now.
Are you altering your style?
Well, in 2 years, we obviously will alter our styles. We're 2 years older than when we started off, so we obviously have developed in some way.
Are you afraid if you change your style to lose some of your fans?
We won't change our style, so just sort of one day to another. One day we decide we're going to do something different. It doesn't happen like that.
I don't think we're changing our style so much as we're broadening our scope.
Hey, how's it going? So we're at installment number 5 in my Rolling Stones London Catalog Deep Dive video series. And today we're going to be talking about this gem, December's Children Ain't Everybody's, which was the 5th U.S. Rolling Stones album. And it's really more a collection of songs that London Records had lying around instead of like a cohesive album like the previous albums more or less had been. You got a mishmash of different material on here. It was released on December 4th, 1965. So right around the time that the Beatles' Rubber Soul album was released, that is what it was competing against in the Christmas season stores. So what do we have on this record? So basically we have 4 tracks that were left over from the UK Out of Our Heads album. We've got a song from a Rolling Stones EP called The Rolling Stones, which was released back in January of 1964. We've got 2 tracks from the Got Live If You Want It EP. We've got both sides of the Get Off My Cloud single as well as the UK B-side. And we've got a song that would be a single in the US as an A-side, but not an A-side in the UK. So we will get into all of that as we pick apart this album. So it was called December's Children, and it was named by Andrew Loog Oldham. And the thing about Andrew Loog Oldham is I think he wanted to be the 6th Rolling Stone. He really wanted to be a pop star. He was an eccentric figure, and he kind of spearheaded the Rolling Stones image, how they were marketed. And so he titled this album and he wrote the liner notes, which make absolutely no sense at all. He tried to be a beat poet, and so he was stylizing himself as like an Allen Ginsberg, but it doesn't come off. It makes absolutely no sense. It's very difficult and tiresome to read, but nonetheless, it is what it is. The back cover that you have is the back cover that was used on the UK Out of Our Heads. They just replaced Out of Our Heads with December's Children here. Not only was Andrew Loog Oldham in charge of their image, but he also, at least in their early days, kind of heavily influenced the material that they were writing. He wanted them to write songs about women, kind of misogynistic lyrics. If you compare the way the Beatles sang about love and the way the Rolling Stones sang about love, there really is quite a huge difference. The only song that, at least early Beatles song, that you kind of classify as misogynistic would be Run for Your Life, where with the Rolling Stones and their early catalog, they're constantly putting women down. They're constantly talking about women who have done them wrong or getting the upper hand on their women. So by and large, that was Andrew Loog Oldham's influence there on those lyrics. So anyway, let's get into this album. What do we have on the album? First of all, it starts off with She Said Yeah, which was written by Sonny Bono and Roddy Jackson. Yeah, the I Got You Babe Sonny Bono, the Sonny and Cher Sonny Bono. But it was recorded by Larry Williams, and it was released in January of 1959. The Beatles covered 3 Larry Williams songs, Dizzy Miss Lizzy, Bad Boy, and Slow Down. So he was very popular with British invasion bands, but that was on the Out of Our Heads UK album. The next song we got is Talking About You, which was a Chuck Berry cover. Chuck Berry released his version in February of 1961. That was also on the UK Out of Our Heads album. The third song is the oldest song on this collection, and it originally appeared on the Rolling Stones EP, which was released in January of 1964, but it was recorded all the way back in August of 1963. So it really sounds out of place on this album. It sounds like it was recorded almost 3 years before this album hit the shops. But that was an Arthur Alexander song. Arthur Alexander released it in December of 1961. And Arthur Alexander was also responsible for the song Anna, which the Beatles covered on their 1963 album, Please Please Me. The next song is Look What You've Done, a Muddy Waters cover that he released in July of 1960. And this was a U.S. only release. It was a leftover track from the Chess studio sessions that they did back in June of 1964. The next song is a Jagger Richards original, the first one that we get on this album, called The Singer, Not the Song. And this was the B-side of the Get Off My Cloud UK single. Did not appear on a UK studio album. The last song that we get on side one is the Bobby Troup song, Route 66, which was written back in the early 1940s and was recovered. And it was recorded by the Nat King Cole Trio in April of 1946. And this is a live version that appeared on the Got Live If You Wanted EP. So you flip the record over and you have the first 5 songs are all Jagger Richards original. Starting off with the fantastic single, Get Off My Cloud. This was released in the US in September of 1965 and it was released in the UK a month later in October. And then you've got the US B-side, I'm Free. This was the B-side of the US single, and it also appeared on the Out of Our Heads album in the UK. The third song is As Tears Go By, which Marianne Faithfull had a hit with in the UK in June of 1964. And it took the Rolling Stones another year before they would record their version. It was released as a single in the US on December 18th, 1965. It's Jagger Richards and Andrew Loog Oldham who are credited with writing the song, and it appeared as the B-side to the 19th Nervous Breakdown single in the UK, but not until a year later, 1966. The fourth track we get is Gotta Get Away, again, a Jagger Richards composition, and this appeared on the Out of Our Heads UK album, the last track from that album to appear on this compilation. The fifth track is Blue Turns to Gray. This was a song that was released by 2 separate artists, Dick and Dee Dee in February of 1965, and also a band called the Mighty Avengers that same month. This was a US only track and it did not appear on any UK album. And then the final track that we get on this album is I'm Moving On. This was a live version of the song. It was originally recorded by Hank Snow, released as a single in May of 1950, and it's the second track to appear on the Got Live If You Want It EP. So how do I feel about this album? It's not my favorite. It doesn't hang together as well as Out of Our Heads or the Rolling Stones now. And if you look at it as a collection of songs from different years, different eras, different studios. Most of these were recorded at either RCA Studios in LA, or there was a couple tracks from the Chess Studios, a couple live tracks in here. So it's just kind of a mishmash. But if you take it on those terms, I think it's an enjoyable enough album to listen to. I think there's some weaker tracks on here. The Singer, Not the Song is not a great track here. I've never been a huge fan of I'm Free. It kind of borrows the Love Me, Hold Me from 8 Days a Week. Blue Turns to Gray is fine. The live versions are all right. But I really love Get Off My Cloud. As Tears Go By is really solid. Gotta Get Away, I think, is a very cool song. I love Look What You've Done. So it's an enjoyable album. It's not one of my favorites from the early 60s, but if you're a Rolling Stones fan, if you like their early songs, you will enjoy this album. So what do I have? I've got it on this is an early press. It's still in the shrink. Somebody tore off the hype sticker. Damn it! Why they did that, I have no idea. This is my mono copy, so it is on the maroon London label. And then the only other version that I have of this, if you're not counting, I've got a CD version of it on the Rolling Stones mono CD box set. But this is the first release that came out. I believe it was 1986, and so it replicates the liner notes on the inside of the booklet there. But that is December's Children. Try not to make this video go too long because I don't think this album really warrants an extensive dissection. But nonetheless, that's my take on December's Children and everybody's. Hope you've enjoyed the video. And next time, I'm not sure what we're getting into. I think we might be getting into a greatest hits compilation. But I will see you next time.